face-off between Carthage and Egypt on the map Carthago, between RTK TheScyther and myself. Now RTK stands for Round Table Knights, and it's one of the oldest clans, active clans in the Total War community. So it should be a nice matchup. The Carthaginian army is, well, it's somewhat balanced. It's approaching spam with its 12 infantry units and 4 skirmishers and 4 cavalry, but in this patch I'd say it's fairly balanced. This map is... it's not the best map, it's not very balanced. There are a few viable ways of approaching this map, and as you can see, this hill is pretty good for camping on, but most players don't, because it's a dick move. This hill is also amazing if you want to camp, but again, most players don't. What you'll find usually happens on this map is pushing up towards the ridge here, trying to gain the ridge first, because the player that is able to attack downhill here, or downhill here, has a massive advantage. If a player starts backing off because he sees that he can't take the engagement, then he has to back up quite far in order to turn the terrain advantage around, and the same can be said here, although you aren't really able to ever turn the terrain advantage around if you're retreating this way. You have to go up on this hill and then you have a campy situation. Now let's get the show started. My build is 6 Libyan infantry, 3 mercenary Qrthdst, 2 Iberian swords, 2 Balearic slingers, 1 Libyan Qrthdst, 2 late Libyan hoplites, 2 Carthaginian cavalry, a noble cavalry general. And I thought I had a 4th cavalry unit somewhere, didn't I? Yes, no... well, let's see. I thought I had 4 cavalry units, but maybe I'm just blind. Yeah, I had a 4th. So I had 3 Carthaginian cavalry and 1 noble cavalry, so 4 cavalry units. And I'm just sending my Carthaginian cavalry up to scout here. Carthaginian cavalry is not the best cavalry, but it can be cost effective against skirmishers and be used to good effect in tying down more expensive enemy cavalry while infantry support is rushing in. So here, citizen cavalry, I don't want anything to do with this engagement because I see he's moving up the rest of his army here and he has Qrthdst spear support. So now I can see my opponent's entire army, or so I think. 2 Qrthdst spears on the flanks, 5 thorax swords, 1 Ptolemaic cavalry general, 2 mercenary Rhodians, Qrthdsts on the flanks, and 2 citizen cavalry. That's what I can see for now. So, I'm thinking, okay, I can take this engagement, but it's going to be massively important to be able to move up on the ridge first and be the one attacking downhill. So I'm just running my guys up. They are active, so they are increasing their fatigue levels. But it should be fine. The thorax swords are also active, so we should be on equal footing here. But if I'm just able to take the engagement before he gains the hill, I should be at an advantage, and I'm just able to do it. And look at these guys. In the charge here, these guys, the thorax swords cost 710, I believe, and the Libyan infantry cost 720. And look at this charge here. Fairly similar in stats. Libyan infantry better on the attack, thorax swords better defense, but fairly similar otherwise. The Libyan infantry have higher damage, and here you go, taking a quite significant lead at the beginning with the Libyan infantry. So I'm confident I'll be able to win the melee engagement. I just need to take care of the flanks, and I'm doing that with these mercenary Iberian swords that are firing into the rear of these Qrthdst spears while I'm sending in my mercenary Qrthdst to support. The Carthaginian cavalry is able to deal with the citizen cavalry with the help of these late Libyan hoplites. My opponent is charging into my mercenary Qrthdst with his general to stop them from rear charging these Qrthdst spears, and he's going to get some kills on them, but he's also going to take damage. Now here in the center, the engagement is I'm fighting downhill and my opponent is fighting uphill, so his guys are winded while mine are winded as well, so we're about the same fatigue level, but I am up on the hill, so I should be able to do better than my opponent in most of these engagements, and also because the Libyan infantry is a bit more better offensively than the thorax swords. Now I have used shield wall in addition to this. I probably wouldn't have needed the shield wall in order to be effective, but I just wanted them to survive for a bit longer. My opponent didn't use his shield wall, which he should. And here come the Ptolemaic cavalry. I don't know why he didn't take this engagement here. He could have, probably because they were Libyan Qrthdsts and they can survive for quite some time. My opponent snuck his cavalry around here, but when they arrive they are winded, and I'm able to support this fight with several units and stop most of his Ptolemaic cavalry from coming through here. This unit is being neutralized very quickly indeed, but this unit is going to be able to sneak this unit around. But I'm taking a quick look at the battlefield and I decide that I won't really need my slingers for the late game here, so I'm letting him charge in here without trying to get out, and it's questionable if I would have been able to get out because he is coming in here with his Ptolemaic cavalry general, so it would probably be difficult for me to get my slingers out of this engagement. I probably could have pushed them over here, but I didn't. So mercenary Iberian swords, pretty good when charging units like Thuria spears. Look at this, going down very quickly. Throwing some javelins on this Ptolemaic cavalry, and this unit of Ptolemaic cavalry has had enough, this unit has had enough, and now things are looking very peachy for the Carthaginians. It's only a matter of wrapping up this infantry fight, and it looks like the thorax swords are starting to have had enough as well. So now it's just a matter of chasing down the skirmishers and finishing off his general. So I'm just going to fast forward because nothing really worth mentioning is happening at the moment. Just blobbing up to take care of his Ptolemaic cavalry, finishing off the infantry fight and chasing down his skirmishers. So there we go. Last unit of thorax swords going down, general died, and now it's just a matter of chasing down the final skirmishers. Now I think I did have a more infantry heavy build than my opponent did here. My opponent spent more on his cavalry than I did, and I was able to, by being a bit faster up on the hill, I was able to get the best of the infantry engagement, but it also helped that I put my units in shield wall, of course, because in shield wall the Libyan infantry are both better in defense and in offense than the thorax swords, so they will win that engagement most of the time. Especially with the terrain advantage, it will be fairly decisive. So good game, well played to Roundtable Knight TheScyther. I think one of the problems with the map Carthago is that skirmishers are in a way neutralized because because of the way the ridge is in the center, and you can see our skirmishers didn't do too well. These are abysmal stats for the Rhodian slingers, and if you're going to move up quickly to the hill, it's very important to have the infantry advantage. And here I have 9, or actually I didn't have 6 Libyan infantry, I had 5. So I have 8 very good mid-tier sword units, and my opponent had 5. So when he saw that, he maybe should have pulled back a bit and gained some space where he could use his cavalry. So it was a fairly straightforward engagement from my army's point of view. I had the infantry advantage, and I was able to get the engagement early and on my terms. So these mercenary Iberian swords can be extremely deadly if they're left alone. When they're charged by Ptolemaic cavalry, they'll die very quickly, but left alone they can be extremely effective. So overall, none of my units did stellar. These guys did well, but overall most of the units were able to get some kills, and that really helps. So you can see the thorax swords having having to fight uphill and not being in shield wall, they are not going to do well against Libyan infantry and mercenary Qrthdst. But it just goes to show how important terrain can be on some of these maps. They're not very balanced, and you kind of have to suit. You kind of have to tailor your build to fit the map in some way. At least if you're going to rush up on the ridge in Carthago, you better have enough swords and or troops able to deliver devastating charges that you can use the ridge to your advantage. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again on